And you're welcome back. In just about 2 weeks, delegates of the opposition National Democratic Congress will have to vote for a new flag bearer to lead them into the 2024 general elections. There are 3 candidates seeking to lead the party into the elections. First is John Dramani Mahama, who's once been president and presidential candidate of the party. Kojo Bonsu is also there in the race, former mayor of Kumasi. And then there's Dr. Duffour, former finance minister under the John Evans of Tamil's regime. Today, we put the spotlight on Dr. Duffour's campaign, and Dr. Duffour, who has been in the central, western, Bono and other regions as well. How has the campaign gone so far? What has been the response from the delegates? And is he the best choice going into this race? All these answers will be provided right here as we're joined in studio now by Fritz Powerful. And of course, if you're old enough to know about this, he is a veteran in my space, so it's a good time to be seeing you in the studio. Welcome to The Pulse. It's good to see you. You missed the job, partly.
Missed the job? I never left it.
But anyway, you're now, of course, supporting the campaign of Dr. Duffour. You've been around the country to a number of regions. The last one was in which region?
We've just left the Bono region. We're going into Kumasi for a day and then back to Accra, and then we'll go out again.
How would you describe the campaign trail so far? Has it been encouraging?
Yes, very encouraging. The response has been very good in all the places we've been to. We've done the Volta region, we've done certain parts of the Volta region, and we've done certain parts of Greater Accra. And as I said, we've been to the central, we've been to the west, north, western, and then we've been to Bono and Bono East. So I think it looks good.
What's been the message from the Duffour campaign?
The Duffour campaign is concentrating more on the grassroots. Dr. Duffour is very much a grassroots person. It's empowering the grassroots. And we believe that as a party, we haven't done the grassroots as well as we should have done in the past. So we're now focusing on the grassroots and making sure that we'll empower the grassroots, which was the reason why the party was formed at the beginning. It was a party of the grassroots, party to serve as the voice for the voiceless. So we're going back to that, and that's what we've been doing. And so that's what he's been working on, and that's his message.
But the campaign itself has been criticized for how it's been rolling out this grassroots approach. You started off with the Ahunto project, for instance. That project, of course, regardless of how good the intentions were, met the displeasure of some leading figures within the party who raised concerns, for instance, about how it was being rolled out without the key involvement of the national leadership. Have you rectified?
I was very much
rectified all of these issues
in the conversation about that, and I think that it was at a certain time because people favored a particular candidate and they put spokes in the wheels. But we're able to resolve it. It slowed down the process of us rolling out Ahunto in the various constituencies, and so far we've rolled out 62, and we're yet to roll out more. And so, therefore, that was only the point.
Are you reforming how that's being done now?
Well, the thing is that we've resolved the issue with the party. And so it's now to look at the logistics and see how best we can do it. Because, you know, it was also a guinea pig program. So we're now improving on how we're rolling it out.
Do you share the idea that this program was meant to give undue advantage, quote unquote, to Dr. Duffour's campaign?
No, I think he thought of this way before he decided he wanted to stand. But yes, naturally you do things to your advantage. But the idea was that we had to empower the grassroots. One of the problems that we have in Ghanaian politics is that the grassroots are not empowered, and so they are very dependent on the largesse of various candidates and politicians. And we wanted to move away from that, to give the executives a chance to raise their own funds and in order to organize themselves. Because you hamstring them when they have to rely on the largesse that comes either from a member of parliament or from somewhere else. So it was also to create a certain entrepreneurial spirit within the party ranks.
When the vetting was carried out for initially 4 individuals, now
Yes.
it's been reduced to 3.
Yeah.
The other individual, the businessman, Mr. Ernest Kobia, decided to pull out of the race.
Yes.
Then, surprisingly, he says, "I'm declaring my support for John Mahama
Yes.
because I believe he's the best bet to run the NDC."
Right.
Is that discouraging you as a campaign to
Not at
say
all,
that,
because,
well,
we
some
don't-
people who
I
were in the
personally-
race already are
I
declaring
am
support for
somebody
John Mahama?
who was with the party at the beginning.
Right.
I was part and parcel of the midwives who gave birth to the party. I've never heard of Kobia. I mean, for somebody who was supposed to be a potential presidential candidate. So he came out of the woods somewhere,
Right.
somehow. And so for me, right, I mean, if you pledge your support to any of the candidates, that's not a real problem.
Yeah, I was asking because of the
doesn't discourage-
intention. See,
no.
he says, well, I wanted to run the NDC, but I feel John Mahama would do
Well,
a better job.
I don't think he was savvy about the party. He didn't even know the people who were at the helm of the party. I think it was something that he thought was a good idea, and at a certain time thought that, no, this is not a good idea. And naturally, if he's gone to John Mahama, why should he discourage us?
Fritz, your campaign, you've been all across a number of regions. I'm sure there are more that you'll be doing, but at the same time, you have the likes of Kojo Bonsu and others going around as well. Where would you place the Duffour campaign in all of this? Are you in the lead or comfortable lead, perhaps?
I very rarely tend to do those kind of things. We're working very hard to win the flagbearership, all right? And the effort that we've got to put in to win, we're putting it in. I'm not going to do any comparisons because it most of the time it's unnecessary and it's self-seeking. So I'm not going to be self-seeking about it. We're working very hard. We're trying very hard to get to all the delegates that we can get to so that we can make a maximum impact at the polls.
Already, we've heard from the former mayor, Kojo Bonsu, as well,
Yes.
his campaign team raising the concern about why they believe that your previous set of leadership or, phases that led you into the 2020 elections should give way for a new phase.
Yeah.
And part of the reason, he says, was that the governing NPP has damaged or dented the image of John Mahama beyond repairs. Do you feel that's the main reason why he should give way for the likes of Dr. Duffour?
I try as much as possible not to be critical of any of the candidates.
Right.
Kojo Bonsu happens to be a very close friend of mine, and I work with John Mahama, and I've known him for years. The thing is that my beef with John Mahama standing is that we lost the election in 2016 by a wide margin, and we lost it again in 2020. In 2016, when we lost it, I actually supported the fact that John should step back and become a statesman, because right now you can see that we don't have anyone with the experience who is neutral or who can speak on behalf of the people of Ghana. At a certain time, we had Jerry John Rawlings, who was very much the conscience of the nation. Right. And I thought that John Mahama was well suited to be the conscience of the nation because he'd been through everything to the top. So I've never supported his comeback plans per se, but it's not out of any malice aforethought.
Right.
Okay, it's because I just felt that as a politician, as somebody who is also a historian, that would have been better for him to step aside. And therefore, when you go into a battle and you're battle scarred, the scars sometimes inhibit your the way you do things. But I have no objections to or any criticisms of him wanting to stand. Right. Except that that's my feeling, my personal feeling.
And your belief is Dr. Duffour would be the best to go. What are the strengths he's coming on board with?
The thing is, and I tell Ghanaians that the situation in this country is awful. You know, the economy is in a parlous state, and it needs to be fixed. And it's not only the indices, the economic indices, the fiscal indices per se, but the general society needs to have some kind of pluses or negatives, pluses or positives to help it move forward. And I think that Dr. Duffour has been confronted with some of those kind of problems in the past, and he worked admirably to resolve those problems. So I believe that since the basis of the whole thing is economic, we need somebody who's an economic guru to be able to...
And interestingly, he's been making some pronouncements on that. He says, for instance, that give me Ghana to run, I'll transform Ghana in 2 years.
Yes.
Even the IMF program we're running is beyond 2 years. What's the magic one?
Now, let me tell you something. In 2009, when the NDC won the elections and he was, he was in the plans made, the Minister of Finance, a letter came from the IMF saying that the situation in Ghana was terrible and that then by the end of the year, 2009, our economy will be in dire straits.
Right.
Dr. Duffour is a consummate banker. He knows how to move money around. He knows workings of money internationally and nationally. And with the support and supervision of John Evans Tamils, they were able to turn the economy around in 18 months. The NDC show it. The inflation rate, single digit. Ghana became the fastest growing, one of the fastest growing economies in the world. All right, and things in terms of employment fell, unemployment figures fell. So there's somebody who's tried and trusted. And in 1999, even before he became the Minister of Finance, he was named one of the top bankers in the world. So there's somebody whose pedigree cannot be doubted. I've known him since I was a young boy. I was in school with him in Prempeh College. And he's always been a very serious, a very dedicated, a very passionate person.
So, but what's the plan? How will it happen?
How will
2
it happen?
years to transform the economy.
You don't give everything away, but from what I've gathered from him, he knows how to deal and negotiate the money markets to favor us in terms of our debts, debt refinancing and all that kind of thing. And the fact that we have to look at other things like employment or job creation. You understand, we've got to get away from the over-politicization of our social dynamics. And he's very much a person to the fore with that.
Political watchers are concerned that the NDC appears to be, if I may use the word, dispersing the energies you have. Dr. Duffour is a known financier of the party. And of course, that concern was raised, for instance, by the OT regional chair of your party, Japon Kujo, who says, well, Dr. Duffour comes from the Ashanti region, for instance. That's not a known base of the NDC. However, if you harness his strength and his capabilities, you could win more seats in the area and support, for instance, the John Mahama campaign, so you have a solid team going forward. Well, what's your thoughts on some of these propositions?
Japon Kujo, who I know, is a known John Mahama supporter.
Right.
So naturally, anything that he says would want to favor the John Mahama camp. But that is not what I believe and agree to. The thing is that you also have to look at the numbers. Okay, Ashanti is a very crucial area for in terms of the presidential and parliamentary elections.
Right.
It has one of the largest populations, and we have to make a dent in the NPP's position in order to win. And I think that somebody like Dr. Duffour will do that. And so those are some of the things that we consider. You know, we've got to get over 30% in Ashanti. And we need someone who can do that, because he's respected. Because the Ashanti constituency is a very traditional one.
Right.
They are very strong in terms of tradition, but they also respect a certain ability to deliver. And I don't think they are very happy at the moment with what is going on. So I think that we are in the right city care for that.
Beyond May 14 or 15, there's the NDC to keep. You have John Mahama, you have Mayor Kojo Bonsu, you have Dr. Kwabena Duffour.
Yes.
if he wins, I'm giving two scenarios here. If he wins, how is it going to work out the unity plan for the NDC? And if it turns otherwise, will Dr. Duffour support the others or anyone who may emerge victorious?
You know, at the close of every meeting he's had with the delegates, the first thing he says is that this is an internal election and we're brothers. I mean, the word, I can't say we're still brothers and sisters when it comes to the fact that we have no women standing, but we're brothers. And we have to respect each other. And so, therefore, that respect should also transcend into working together.
Right.
I have no qualms about working with anyone if that's the situation. But and I think that Dr. Duffour also believes it, and he says it's an internal fight. We should eschew insults and backbiting and the negativity, which is something that I've always supported. I've never ever liked,
politics of insults.
No, it doesn't serve any purpose. You know, I mean, if you're a supporter of a football team and you insult each other, that one, you know very well that the resolution is on the pitch.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the NDC going into 2024. Yeah. You're mindful that the governing party, the NPP, says they'll be breaking the 8.
Yes.
Is that is that not threatening you as a political party?
Well, that's hyperbole. You know, the NPP are very good with slogans. They've always been. I remember 1992 when the political dispensation changed from quasi-military government to the present day, and then we're going into elections. I mean, they'd already come up with their slogans, or Ishi and the elephant and Radu Radu and all that. But at the end of the day, they were given a kick in the backside. The thing is, they're very good with slogans. They are also not easy to get rid of because they're in power. They're the incumbency. So we really have to work very, very hard, and we can't take anything for granted when in dealing with them. But I'm sure that once we're finished with our primaries, we'll work very, very hard to get rid of the NPP.
And this brings me back to the question before this one about unity and ensuring that there's partnerships amongst all of the camps. If John Mahama extends the invitation to Dr. Duffour to serve as his running mate, and I'm just also creating another scenario now, will Doc opt for that? I'm sure it's come up. I'm sure you've heard this from delegates sometimes.
I don't think that should come from me. That should come from Doctor. All right, because...
but you've been around. You've had delegates say some of these things that come together.
No, but the thing is that the first thing is to win the flag bearership, for us to finish the primaries, and then from there we'll look on and see what other permutations we can bring in. You understand? But I do not want to venture forth on that.
Because it's not feasible, or?
No. Well, you see, you can never say never in politics, you know, but that is not something that I'm considering at the moment. It's far away from my mind.
Because you're setting Dr. Duffour win?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, now to others.
Wow.
Now let's talk about, of course, the NDC as we find it now. Some of your key members out on the fringes watching and saying, well, we want to be part of the NDC again. There's the likes of Koku Anyidoho, there's the likes of the former First Lady, Nana Konadu-Agyeman-Rawlings. Some have appealed. Of course, we've heard from Zanetor asked that let there be unification, bring everyone back if we want to forge ahead into the 2024 election stronger. What's your view on some of these
100%. Koku Anyidoho is a very good friend of mine. His father is a man I admire greatly. I filmed him in Rwanda, where he was the deputy force commander, and he excelled. And so I got to know the family quite well. And so Koku is very good material. He's boisterous, he's strong. Naturally, sometimes you've got to pull it back a bit from the fray. But he's good material. And Afo Nana Kunedu, she's somebody I admire, I've worked with. And she was a bonus to the party at the beginning, right through. I think that we didn't handle her well. When we had the contretemps and all that kind of thing. And I think that I would be at the forefront of bringing all those who had gone away back. Because parties are numbers and ideas. Disparate ideas can help in focusing and winning this country. One of the problems with Africa is that we have mismanaged our human resource base. We come into power and then you deem certain people as not, right, and then you keep them away, and they may be the ones who could contribute to the progress of the society that they belong to. Everybody loves. Nobody has a monopoly on the love of Ghana. We all love Ghana.
So let's talk about Ghana.
Yeah.
You've seen the tenure of President Akufo-Addo,
yes.
And in very recent times, the concern has been about illegal mining. That's dominated the conversation.
Yes.
Do you feel that we would ever win this fight?
Yes. Thing is that, you see, you have to have a certain sense of political history. In the 1800s in America, a guy called Jim Jeffries, chanced upon gold in California, all right, and started a movement actually that transformed America completely. Right. But for about the first 20 years or 30 years, there was lawlessness. And most cowboy films that you see stem from the California gold rush, which led to over 3-4 million people leaving the eastern seaboard and going into California, which is now one of the wealthiest states in America. The thing is how we handle it. All right. Now, what hurts me is that one of the reasons why Ghana became polarized politically was the cocoa industry. When Nkrumah decided to nationalize the cocoa industry, and a certain group of people thought it was different, and they formed a political front against it. That particular political dispensation is the political dispensation which has led to the galamsey in the cocoa areas. So we've got to really sit back and think and say, what are we doing to ourselves? You understand? Right. Yes, there's got to be illegal mining, but we've got to put together a system, and everybody's got to come on board. You can't say you are not going to use the NDC, brains and minds, to sit down and think about it. We've got many reports on gold, because gold is very much part and parcel of our wealth and our resource base. Though I believe that the resource base that we've not worked on well is the human resource base. Right. So the report that came out has got to be looked at dispassionately. Unfortunately, we're approaching an election, so people are going to use it to settle
political
scores.
benefits.
But it's a very, very serious thing that affects the generations after us. And so therefore we've got to sit down and talk about it and say, how do we resolve this?
But the president is taking his position on this. He says, well, I don't see any evidence in what Professor Frimpong Boateng is talking about.
In some situations, and I beg to differ, that is a blinkered view. I try as much as possible not to but it's a blinkered view. There is a problem with galamsey. You look at our rivers, you look at our water bodies, you look at the social dynamics, the rural-urban migration, the fact that you've got people in the rural areas who cannot be employed because of the gains they made from illegal mining. And so therefore, the illegalities that are coming in, the fact that the security of this country is at risk, because it's not only Ghanaians who are doing it. People are actually coming in because gold has a certain allure that creates those kind of problems.
And at the core of this is the mass and teeming youth who do not have jobs.
Yes.
How's the Duffour campaign planning towards the issue of unemployment, for instance?
He's very concerned about it, and he believes that we have to put into place the kind of infrastructure and the network for us to do so. He's very interested in agriculture and the benefits of agriculture, because agriculture is what has saved Ghana. We have gold, but the returns from gold are not maximized.
Right.
It's the same thing with oil. I think we're importing more oil than we're exporting.
Yeah.
And the only thing that we really have that is cocoa. And I think that we're looking at cassava, we're looking at rice, we're looking at all those things. So we're going to look at agriculture, but make it an attractive proposition for the youth, all right? And, you know, when you have cheap food, right, and you've got the distribution system, the storage system, the marketing system, right, then people are not that angry. People then have the patience to be able to think and look at other avenues in terms of resource mobilization in this country.
We'll have this conversation again. As we wrap up, is there any message to the grassroots of the NDC?
Yes. In 2 weeks, we'll be voting, the NDC will be voting for a flag bearer. And I would advise you very strongly to vote for Dr. Duffour. I think he's the right prospect for that. Thank you. And let's do it peacefully.
Right, peacefully, as you say. Duffour, a senior member of the Duffour campaign. We stay on the end.